What I've got before me is the brand new Superman from Yema. And look, on first impressions, you're probably thinking it looks like a normal Yema Superman, but it's not. It is so much more. And what you can see there on that dial, it says micro rotor automatic. So basically this is equipped with their manufactured micro rotor caliber. There's so many considerable upgrades to this watch, from its case finishing to that sapphire insert on the bezel. The overall look and stance of this watch remains very true to the original 1960s version. And I'll tell you what, a couple of words that come to mind with this piece is refined. Delicate and refined. Now in this video, I'll get a chance to spend a week with this watch on the wrist before I have to send it back. So I'm going to tell you what I think, my observations. So without further ado, let's dive in and let's check it out. Pun intended. Now, for those who don't know, Yema is a French brand. It was founded in 1948, and the Superman, or this particular model watch, it was a very innovative French design back in the 60s. They basically designed a locking system for that bezel, and you know what? It's simple, it's clean, it works, and it's a design that's unique to Yema. It's ingenious, it's very simple. It basically utilizes a screw down crown to lock in that bezel in place so the bezel does not move. Simple, ingenious, but a very good design. Now you saw the pop-up. Yema has sponsored this video, so I will of course leave all the links in the description if you guys want to check this out. And the official launch of this watch is February the 20th, so I'll leave those links in the description section. Now looking closely at the specs of the watch, I measure a case diameter of 38.9 or 39mm with a lug-to-lug of 48. That height is 12.2mm with a lug width of 20. Now the crown is a 6.4mm signed screw-down crown. The watch offers 300 meters of water resistance, and the total weight on this bracelet, sized to my 18cm wrist, comes in at exactly 123 grams. Now some very interesting observations on the wrist, because the footprint, 48mm lug-to-lug, has been great, and even that height has been exceptional, 12.1, 12.2, a really good experience. But I've got to say, one thing to bear in mind is that bracelet. It is a wonderful looking bracelet. I love its design. I love the integration. It looks phenomenal. It's 20mm down to about 15.8. A really nice design. But I've got to tell you, the lug-to-lug, or the effective lug-to-lug, if you look at the distance from here to here, I've got a wrist of 60mm width. And the actual bracelet extends out quite a bit before it turns down. And you can clearly see here that the lug-to-lug of 48 is great, it's fine, but the bracelet itself, as you can see, that's the most I can bend it down. So the distance from there to there, well, the internal distance is around 55.7. So my wrist, being 60mm width, fits in there nicely, but if you've got a smaller width, bear that in mind. There'll be a gap between the bracelet and your wrist as a wearing experience. Moving on, the design of the watch, the best words I can use to describe this, it's petite, and it's very stylish. It's very 60s, very geeky, and I'll show you that bezel and I'll show you that locking system. Basically, you've got a 120 click unidirectional bezel, you've got a sapphire insert, that triangle at the 12 is loomed, and the way to action it, it doesn't actually move. So if I slightly unscrew that crown just a little bit, it loosens it up. As you can see, wherever we place it, it doesn't matter. Whether I place it here, whether I place it on the minute hand, I lock it in, away you go. That is not going anywhere. That is brilliant. So that's a simple design, designed by Yema, manufactured by them back in the 60s. I think it's cool. It is unique to this company. It just makes sense to keep incorporating that design in the Superman. After all, Yema is the original designer. Now if I unscrew that crown and put it back to the 12, it lines up perfect. And again, we just lock it in. My only real gripe here is, do you really need a unidirectional bezel? Because the bezel goes in one direction, but what for? If you've got a locking system, it doesn't matter if it goes bi-directional. You can put it anywhere you want, lock it in, Bob's your uncle. This could have easily been a bi-directional bezel. Let's get onto that bracelet. As I mentioned, the integration is beautiful, the brushing, the beveling of that case is wonderful, and as you can see, this is now a 20mm. I believe the original Supermans were 19. This one is 20mm. It tapers down to 15. There's your articulation. It's comfortable on the wrist. For bigger wrists, not an issue. For smaller wrists, you might have a problem. Now the bracelet features push pins. It's got a milled swivel, a pressed clasp, as you can see, locks in, a flip lock, and you've got 4 micro adjustments. A little bit dated by today's standards, as we've all come to expect toolless micro adjustability. I know it's keeping within vintage styling, but for the price that this watch is offered at, I think it would have been a no-brainer to have a toolless micro adjustment here. And if you notice, let me unlock this. You've also got a diver's extension, a very well made diver's extension and a very well hidden one. So just pops in, lock the watch, and away you go. Now if I turn my attention to that dial, as you can see, it's a very clean layout, very vintage Submariner. Very, with your triangle at the top, your 369 batons. It's clean, it's legible, it works really well, and there's no confusing that hour and minute hand here because it's designed for very good legibility. And throughout the week, I've had no issues reading the time at a first glance. Also inside that crystal, you've got a stainless steel rehoud, as you can see. Again, very cool to the period, and it's these little details that make a world of difference in a watch for us enthusiasts. And one of the things that caught my attention when I first opened the parcel was the beautiful transitions between the satin brushing, the highly polished bevels. It's just done to a nice finesse. I think the finishing of this watch is very nice. And you've also got some drilled lugs for easy strap changes. Now the crystal of this watch is a box dome sapphire. Again, in keeping with the original design and period, it's doing a very good job here. I like the slight distortion at the extreme angles. Now if that wasn't enough for the watch, the real magic happens when you turn the watch over. You've got a sapphire exhibition case back showing off that manufactured micro rotor caliber. Basically an in-house movement. It's relatively stealth. I love the fact that they've used a micro rotor to aid in overall height of that movement and case height, keeping this watch at 12mm in height and still offering 300 meters of water resistance. Now as you can see with that movement, you've got a combination of satin finishing and micro blasting of the main plate and bridges. That bidirectional micro rotor is made of a high density tungsten alloy, and the movement offers 70 hours power reserve. So I think they've done very well. They've included an in-house movement, a very cool upgrade with that bezel insert, 20mm lug width, satinized case and transitions, a really cool looking piece. But what about the lume? Well, if you look at the lume, first and foremost, I'm glad that they used white lume rather than faux patina. It's very clean, very stylish, and when we switch the lights off, on initial impressions, the lume is good, but it's not exceptional. I did expect a little bit more from the lume in this watch, but the watch that I do have in my hands, it is a prototype, so if you've seen any marks or imperfections anywhere, this is not a production version. Just thought I'd let you know. Now in saying that, what are my gripes of this watch? Well, first and foremost, that bracelet. The wearability on smaller wrists is going to suffer because of the way that the bracelet does not sit straight down. Also, that clasp for me is a little bit dated, and at this price point I would have expected a better system here. Remove the diver's extension and give us a toolless micro adjustment. It really would have made sense for me. Next, the lume. Again, I'm going to forgive that because of the fact of the matter that this is a prototype. So hopefully in the main production version that will be sorted. And probably another gripe, or an observation on this, because being a prototype, I'm not sure whether this hacks, because I've pulled it out, unscrew the crown, pull it out to the first position, and as you can see, it's still moving. Not sure if that manufacturer caliber does actually hack. Maybe this prototype doesn't. And lastly, the price. It's not an inexpensive watch, so keep that in mind. But putting all that aside, I think the upgrades on this watch are really positive. It's a really well made watch, excellent quality. In fact, the quality is very, very good. Also, the historical benefit of this watch, a watch coming from France with that locking bezel, very unique to Yema. It's an iconic design. It's a different watch, and in my opinion, it's also a very underrated watch. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I wanted to share this brand new release from Yema, the Superman, with all of its upgrades, because this is a watch that seems to be screaming all the bells and whistles and a very nice overall look. Thanks again for watching. Be well and safe. Leave me your thoughts and your comments, what you think of this brand or this watch. Be well, and we'll see you in the next one.